The man I watched die just proposed to me today. I never thought I'd see him again, let alone like this. The restaurant buzzed with laughter, clinking glasses, and the soft hum of a grand piano. Reflections of the crystal chandeliers danced in the mirrored walls, casting broken shards of light across the crowded room. My fingers trembled as they wrapped around the stem of my wine glass, the chill of the drink seeping into my bones. I was here for Rhea. It was her big night, the first anniversary of her restaurant. I'd promised I'd come, to stop hiding in my apartment, to at least try to live again. But I hadn't expected this. From the corner of my eye, I saw the doors swing open. The sounds of the city briefly spilled in, the honk of a taxi, the murmur of rain against the pavement. And then he stepped inside. Eli. My breath hitched, caught somewhere between my lungs and my throat. The world blurred at the edges. His dark blue eyes scanned the room until they found me. And when they did, he smiled. That same smile. The one I thought I'd buried along with him. No, this can't be happening. I gripped the table so hard my knuckles went white. My heart pounded against my ribs, loud enough, I thought, for the whole room to hear. Eli moved through the crowd like a ghost. No one seemed to notice the strangeness of it, how his suit didn't quite fit right, how the fabric shimmered oddly under the lights, like it didn't belong in this world. I couldn't look away, trapped by the impossible sight of him. And then he stopped in front of me. His hand reached out, trembling just slightly, as if he too felt the weight of this moment. "Selene," he said, his voice soft, familiar, pulling at my heart in a way that made me want to weep. "I missed you." I opened my mouth but no sound came. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. He sank down on one knee. Gasps echoed through the room. Conversations died mid-sentence. Every eye turned to us. "Will you marry me?" The words fell into the silence like stones into water, sending ripples of shock through my mind. He held out a ring, silver, with a small dark stone that seemed to swallow the light. For a moment, I just stared at it, numb. I could feel the weight of 100 stares, the warmth of the spotlight that had suddenly found us. My pulse roared in my ears. Around us, the guests erupted into applause. People cheered, lifted glasses, and someone even whistled. Cameras flashed. Rhea, across the room, froze mid-step, the tray in her hands tilting dangerously. My body wouldn't move. My lips wouldn't form words. All I could do was shake my head just barely, hoping he'd see, hoping he'd understand this had to be a mistake. But his eyes, those deep blue eyes, were locked onto mine, full of something I couldn't read. Love? Desperation? Or was it something darker? I felt cold. Not just my hands, but my whole body. As if the life were draining from me. My mind screamed at me to run, to get away before this turned into a nightmare I couldn't wake from. "Say yes, sweetheart," someone called. More applause. The pianist struck up a gentle, romantic tune, and the air grew thick with expectation. I forced my mouth open, my voice a broken whisper. "Eli, you're dead." His smile didn't falter. His hand, still holding the ring, didn't waver. "I came back for you." And in that moment, as the room spun and my heart threatened to give out, I knew. Whatever this was, whoever he was now, it wasn't my Eli. I slammed the door shut behind me, the echo filling the small apartment like a final, hollow note. The soft patter of rain against the windows was the only sound that followed. My hands trembled as I leaned against the door, sliding down to the floor until my knees hit the hardwood. What had just happened? My apartment felt smaller than ever, books stacked in haphazard piles, old photographs lining the walls, their smiles frozen in time. Eli's face stared back at me from one of them. I'd kept it, even though I'd tried so many times to throw it away. His grin, full of life, full of dreams we'd made together. And now he was back. Or someone wearing his face was. I squeezed my eyes shut, pressing my palms to my temples. Why hadn't I said no? Why hadn't I screamed or run, or done anything but stand there like a fool? The cheers, the flashes of cameras, the expectant smiles, they had trapped me, made me a prisoner of that moment. "You should have stopped it," my mind hissed. "You let him do it. You let everyone believe the lie." The rain outside grew heavier, drumming against the glass, as if trying to drown out my thoughts. But nothing could silence them. My mind drifted back, unbidden, to that day on the bridge. It was colder than it should have been for early spring. The wind off the river cut through my coat, and Eli's words cut deeper. "You never trust me, Selene. Never." His voice cracked with frustration, his dark blue eyes flashing with hurt and anger. I shook my head, blinking back tears. "Because you lied, Eli, over and over. How am I supposed to trust you when you keep hiding things from me?" He took a step back, hands raised as if surrendering. But there was no peace in his face, only desperation. "I was trying to protect you. Can't you see that?" The argument blurred, voices rising above the roar of the river below. The sky was heavy with clouds, threatening rain. Then, the worst moment, the slip. It was so fast. His foot missed the edge of the walkway. His hand shot out, grabbed mine. His fingers, cold and shaking, clutched at me like a lifeline. "Selene?" I dropped to my knees, gripping him with both hands, my heart slamming against my ribs. His weight dragged me closer to the edge. "Hold on, please, hold on." His eyes locked onto mine, full of terror. And something else. Regret? Love? I didn't know. All I knew was that my strength was failing. And then, with a look that would haunt me forever, his grip loosened. He let go. "Eli, no." My scream echoed off the water, carried away by the wind as he fell, swallowed by the river's cold, dark mouth. A sob tore from my throat. I curled into myself on the floor, the memory as raw as the day it happened. I didn't save him. I couldn't. And now, here he was, asking me to marry him as if death had never claimed him. Exhaustion pulled at me. And at some point, I must have fallen asleep, still on the floor. The dream came swiftly. We were back on the bridge. The sky was the same iron gray, the river below just as hungry. But this time, when Eli slipped, I didn't move. I didn't even try to catch him. I just stood there, watching. He dangled by one hand, his face pale, eyes wide. But then, slowly, his expression changed. His fear melted into a smile, a soft, knowing smile that chilled me to my core. "You wanted this," he whispered. His voice echoed all around me, carried by the wind, filling the space between us. "Didn't you?" "No," I tried to say. But the word wouldn't come. My lips moved but no sound emerged. His fingers released the edge, and he fell, smiling all the while. I woke with a start, drenched in sweat, the rain still beating at the windows. My heart raced. My breath came in shallow gasps. Outside, the night pressed close against the glass, and somewhere in the darkness, I swore I heard a voice, his voice, carried on the wind. The next day, I couldn't bear to stay cooped up in my apartment any longer. Sleep had been impossible, haunted by that dream, by his smile, by his voice accusing me of wanting him gone. The rain had finally eased to a light drizzle, the city wrapped in a gray mist that seemed to mirror the fog inside my head. I found myself drawn to a place I hadn't visited in years, an old bookstore tucked between a laundromat and a flower shop. The kind of place where the world felt slower, quieter, like the past could settle around you in soft layers of dust. A little brass bell jingled as I pushed the door open. The familiar scent of old paper and leather-bound volumes wrapped around me like a comforter. Dim yellow lamps lit the narrow aisles, casting long shadows over the uneven wooden floor. The shelves were crammed with books that leaned into each other like old friends sharing secrets. I ran my fingers over the spines as I walked, trying to let the stillness soak into my bones. Maybe here, I could pretend none of it had happened. Maybe here, I could forget the way Eli's voice had sounded when he proposed. The way his eyes didn't look quite like his anymore. I turned a corner into a back aisle, and that's when I saw him. A man stood there, tall and slim, dressed in a dark coat that brushed his knees. His silver hair caught the lamplight, glinting like frost. His eyes, gray, sharp, watching me as if he'd been waiting. There was something ageless about him, like he didn't quite belong to this time. "Selene," he said, his voice deep, rich and steady. Not a question. He already knew who I was. I froze, heart kicking up again, a familiar rhythm of fear. "Do I know you?" He stepped closer, but not too close. His movements were careful, deliberate. "No, but I know you. And I know about him." I didn't need to ask who he meant. The bookstore seemed to shrink around us, the shadows deepening. "What do you want?" My voice came out stronger than I felt. "To warn you?" His gaze didn't waver. "You're in danger." A chill prickled down my spine. "From who?" He hesitated, as if weighing how much to say. Then, slowly, he reached into his coat and pulled out a small object. A pendant on a black cord, a simple silver circle with a tiny feather etched at its center. He held it out to me. "Keep this with you. It won't stop him, but it might help." I stared at the amulet, then at him. "Help with what? Who are you? What's happening to Eli?" Lucian, though he hadn't yet given his name, let the pendant drop into my palm. His fingers were warm, steady, grounding me for a moment. "There are things you're better off not knowing." Yet, his lips quirked, almost sad. "But you'll see soon enough. He's not the man you lost, Selene. And what's returned is not what you're hoping for." He turned to go, but I stepped forward, desperate for answers. "Wait, how do you know all this? Why me?" He glanced over his shoulder, eyes softening just a fraction. "Because I've seen it before. And I don't want to see it again." With that, he slipped into the shadows between the shelves, his footsteps silent on the worn floorboards. By the time I reached the front of the store, breathless and shaken, he was gone. I clutched the pendant tightly, its weight small but strangely reassuring in my hand. Outside, the drizzle had stopped. But I felt no peace, only the sense that the storm had only just begun. The park was quiet at this hour, the world hushed beneath a silver mist. The rain had stopped, but the air still smelled of wet earth and fallen leaves. The lamps lining the paths flickered now and then, casting pools of warm light that barely held back the night. I shouldn't have been out. I knew that. But my apartment felt too small, too full of ghosts. And so I walked, hoping the fresh air would clear my head, hoping the weight in my chest might ease. That's when I felt it. That strange pull, like the air had shifted, like the world was holding its breath. "Selene?" I froze. His voice slid over me like silk, familiar and terrible all at once. I turned slowly, heart hammering so hard it hurt. There he was. Eli. He stood beneath a street lamp, the light glinting off the dark waves of his hair, casting shadows on his face. His suit was the same one he'd worn at the restaurant, but now it looked more out of place than ever, too perfect, too still, as if the fabric didn't belong to this world. His eyes met mine, deep blue, but lacking the warmth I once knew. "I had to see you again," he said, stepping closer. His smile was soft, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I came back for you. I wanted to move, to run, to do anything but stand there. But my feet felt rooted to the ground." "Eli?" His name tasted wrong on my tongue. "Why are you here?" "For you?" His voice cracked, as if the words cost him something. "I couldn't stay away, not after everything. I missed you, Selene, every moment, every breath. I came back because I couldn't bear to be without you." His words were sweet, too sweet. Like honey masking poison. My heart ached at the sound of them, but my mind screamed that this wasn't right. He reached for me. His fingers brushed my cheek and I flinched. His touch was cold. So cold it burned, like ice on bare skin. "You're freezing," I whispered, though I wasn't sure if I meant him or myself. His hand dropped, guilt flickering in his gaze. "I'm sorry. I don't mean to frighten you." The fountain nearby rippled gently, catching the lamplight. I glanced at it, and felt my stomach drop. Eli wasn't there. His reflection should have been beside mine in the water. But it wasn't. I took a step back, pulse racing. "What are you?" The smile faded from his face. He looked hurt. "I'm Eli. I'm still me. Please, Selene, don't look at me like that. I saw you fall." My voice trembled, but I forced the words out. "I saw you die." His eyes darkened, shadows gathering in their depths. "And yet here I am. Because I couldn't let go. I couldn't leave you." He stepped forward, desperate now, his hands outstretched. "Please, just give me a chance. Let me show you. I don't want to hurt you. I never wanted that." My head spun. The part of me that still loved him, the part that never stopped, wanted to believe him, wanted to fall into his arms and pretend none of this was real. But the part that had watched him fall, that had mourned him, that had felt the wrongness of his touch, that part screamed in warning. Still, I found myself nodding, unable to stop the word that slipped out. "Okay. His expression softened, relief flooding his features. Just a walk. That's all I ask. So we walked, side by side, through the quiet park. The mist curled around us, the world holding its breath. His presence was both comfort and curse. Every glance at him tugged at my heart. Every step with him made my skin crawl. I tried to find the man I'd loved in his face, in his voice. But something was missing. Something was wrong. And deep down, I knew, this wasn't the love I remembered. This was something else. Something that devoured. Ria's apartment was the kind of place that felt alive. Bright colors, music posters covering the walls, a guitar resting against the couch. The scent of fresh coffee mingled with vanilla candles, wrapping the space in warmth. I wished I could let it comfort me, but nothing could touch the chill inside me now. I sat on the edge of her couch, hands wrapped around the mug she'd pressed into them, the coffee untouched. My fingers trembled so badly I was afraid I'd spill it. Ria settled beside me, concern etched across her face. Her blonde hair was tied up messily, and she hadn't even changed out of the work clothes from the night before. But her attention was fully on me. "Okay," she said gently. "Tell me everything. From the beginning." So I did. My voice shook as I spoke, the words tumbling out, about seeing Eli, about his proposal, about the park, about how he didn't reflect in the fountain's water, about his touch, cold as ice. When I finished, the room fell silent except for the hum of her fridge and the faint music drifting from a neighbor's apartment. Ria stared at me, eyes wide, pale beneath her freckles. "That's not possible," she finally whispered. "Selene? We buried him. I was there. I remember the funeral. I remember you. What it did to you. I know." My voice broke. But it was him. Or something wearing his face. Ria stood abruptly, pacing across the room. She rubbed her arms as if trying to ward off a chill. "This is insane. Are you sure it wasn't someone who just looked like him? A twin you didn't know about?" "No." I set the mug down before I dropped it. "It's him. I don't know how, but it's him." She stopped, looking at me like she wanted to argue, but couldn't. Not when she saw the terror in my eyes. "Then we need to figure out what's going on. There has to be an explanation." She grabbed her laptop from the coffee table and opened it, fingers flying over the keys. I watched the glow of the screen illuminate her determined face. "Where did he die again?" she asked, though she already knew. "The bridge. Over the river." My throat tightened at the memory. She nodded, typing faster. "Let's see what the internet has to say about it." It didn't take long before she found something that made the blood drain from her face. She turned the screen toward me. An old article, faded and yellowed, scanned from a local history book. "The Curse of the Bridge of No Return." I leaned closer, reading aloud. "They say those who die at the Bridge of No Return may not stay dead, that the river claims their souls but sometimes it gives them back, not whole, not right." Ria's voice was tight. "They call them the uncleaned ones, the ones who come back changed, hungry." The room seemed colder now, as if the words themselves carried a weight. The air felt heavy, hard to breathe. "I can't believe this," I murmured, though part of me already did. "It sounds like some old ghost story. Maybe it is." Ria closed the laptop, her expression fierce. "But we're not ignoring it. I'm not letting you face this alone." "Ria." "No." She knelt in front of me, gripping my hands. "Whatever this is, we'll figure it out. I swear, I won't let anything happen to you." For the first time in days, the tight band around my chest loosened, just a little. I nodded, tears burning at the corners of my eyes. Outside, the city moved on, oblivious. But in that moment, in Ria's apartment filled with light and life, I felt less alone. The night was colder out here, on the outskirts of the city where the streetlights gave way to dark fields and forgotten buildings. The moon hung low, casting a silver glow over broken rooftops and cracked pavement. I shivered as I approached the old church, its silhouette rising like a skeleton against the sky. The door creaked open at my touch, protesting as if warning me to stay out. Inside, the air smelled of dust, old wood, and something else. Something faintly metallic, like forgotten blood. The stained glass windows were shattered in places, moonlight spilling through the gaps, painting patterns on the stone floor. Lucien stood near the altar, half in shadow. The light caught his silver hair, made it shine like frost. His coat looked too thin for the chill, but he didn't seem to feel it. When he turned to face me, his gray eyes were dark with things I didn't understand yet. "I wasn't sure you'd come," he said quietly. "I had to," I answered, my voice soft but steady. "I need to know the truth. About Eli. About what's happening to him." Lucien nodded, as if he'd been waiting for this. He gestured for me to follow, leading me down the aisle to what had once been a chapel but now was just a hollow space of crumbling stone and splintered pews. "He came back through the river's right," Lucien began, his voice echoing off the empty walls. "A ritual older than this city, older than the bridge itself. The river takes what it wants, but sometimes it gives back, twisted, hungry, never whole." I hugged my arms around myself, the cold seeping deeper. "What do you mean, hungry?" Lucien's gaze met mine, and I saw the weight he carried there. "The ones who return, they can't exist without feeding. They draw life from the living. The closer they are to what they once loved, the stronger their need." I felt sick. My knees wanted to give out. "So every time he touches me, he takes from you," Lucien finished gently. "Piece by piece. Until there's nothing left." The church seemed to close in around me. The broken windows, the hollow walls, all witnesses to this terrible truth. I sank onto a cracked pew, my hands trembling. Why would he do this? My voice was barely more than a whisper. Eli wasn't like that. He wasn't a monster. Lucien's face softened, and he crouched in front of me. "He didn't choose this. I doubt he even understands it fully. But the force that brought him back doesn't care about his heart. It cares only that the bond, the love, makes the feeding easier." Tears burned my eyes. "There has to be a way to stop it." For a moment, Lucien didn't answer. He looked away, out through a gap in the wall where the night wind sighed. "I thought so once too." I frowned. "What do you mean?" His jaw tightened. "Years ago. I loved someone. She died. And I was weak. I tried to bring her back." His voice cracked, the memory raw. "I thought I could save her. But what returned wasn't her. It wore her face, spoke with her voice. But every time she touched me I felt it, the life draining away. I couldn't stop it. And in the end, I lost her all over again. Worse than before." The pain in his voice was real, sharp enough to cut through my fear. "Lucien?" He shook his head. "That's why I tried to warn you, why I'm here now. I don't want you to go through what I did. But I also know that once you love someone like that, it's hard to let go, even when you should." I clenched my hands together, trying to steady myself. The pendant he'd given me felt warm against my skin, as if it had absorbed the heat of my fear. "What do I do?" Lucien rose, his expression heavy. "You have to decide what you're willing to risk. The longer you're near him, the more danger you're in, and the harder it will be to walk away." The wind moaned through the broken glass, and the moonlight painted ghostly shapes on the walls. I felt the weight of it all settle on my shoulders. The truth, the choice, the terrible price of love that should have stayed dead. But deep down I knew, Eli wasn't just my past. He was now my curse. The fog rolled in thick and low, swallowing the empty street in its cold embrace. The city's hum felt distant here, as if I'd stepped out of the world I knew and into a dream, or a nightmare. My breath came in shaky clouds, and the click of my boots on the wet pavement sounded too loud, too alone. I shouldn't have left the safety of Ria's apartment. I knew that. But the walls had felt like they were closing in, and the weight of everything Lucien had told me pressed so hard on my chest, I thought I might suffocate. I needed air. I needed space to think. But instead, I found him. "Selene." The sound of my name froze me where I stood. His voice was soft, almost tender, but it echoed strangely in the quiet night, as if the fog carried it in ways the air shouldn't. I turned, slowly, heart hammering. Eli emerged from the mist like a shadow come to life. His face was pale, his dark eyes fixed on me with that same desperate longing that both tore at my heart and filled me with dread. "I had to see you," he said, stepping closer. The fog curled around him, clinging to his coat like a shroud. "Eli, don't," I breathed, but I didn't move. Couldn't. He stopped just in front of me, so close I could feel the cold radiating off him. His hand reached out, trembling slightly as his fingers brushed my cheek. The chill of his touch made me shiver. "I can't stay away from you," he whispered. His eyes glistened, filled with a sorrow so deep it nearly broke me. I thought I could control it. But I can't. I needed to feel you again, just once more. Before I could stop him, before I could even think to pull back, his lips found mine. The world fell silent. The city, the wind, even the beat of my heart, all of it vanished, swallowed by that kiss. His mouth was cold, so cold it burned, stealing the warmth from my skin, from my blood, from my very soul. My legs weakened beneath me. My head spun, the edges of my vision darkening like ink bleeding across a page. I felt myself slipping, losing myself to him, to the hunger I now understood too well. My hands rose, not in surrender but in desperation, pushing against his chest with all the strength I had left. "Eli, stop!" The words were a gasp against his lips. He staggered back, as if my touch burned him. His eyes were wide, horrified, his hands shaking. "I didn't mean, Selene, I didn't want to." His voice broke, and he took another step back, his face a mask of pain and guilt. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But I couldn't stay. I couldn't listen." My body screamed at me to run, to get away before I lost anything more. So I did. I turned and fled into the fog, the world a blur of shadows and light, of fear and grief. His voice echoed behind me, calling my name, but I didn't look back. I couldn't. Because I knew, if I did, I might never find the strength to leave again. The library at the city's historical museum was nothing like the modern glass buildings that surrounded it. It was old, so old that the floors creaked beneath every step, the scent of ancient paper and ink thick in the air. Dust motes floated in the shafts of light that slipped through high, narrow windows. The walls were lined with books and scrolls, maps so faded their ink looked like shadows of words long forgotten. I stood at a massive wooden table in the center of the room, my fingers tracing the edge of a yellowed manuscript. Ria was beside me, flipping through brittle pages of an old ledger. Across from us, Lucien moved like a man with purpose, pulling volumes from shelves, spreading them open with care. "I didn't even know this place existed," Ria muttered, her brow furrowed as she scanned a page of cramped handwriting. "Most people don't," Lucien said, without looking up. "But it holds what we need." And I needed answers, desperately. The night of Eli's kiss had left me shaken, weaker than I wanted to admit. But more than that, it left me determined. I couldn't let this continue. I couldn't let him keep taking from me, from anyone. There had to be a way to stop it. To save him, or to set him free. Lucien unrolled an old map, the parchment crackling under his hands. This city was built around the river, around the bridge. And before that there was a shrine, a place of offering, a place of sacrifice. Ria glanced at me, her expression tight. "Sacrifice? That doesn't sound promising." Lucien pointed to a mark on the map. The bridge was constructed on the ruins of that shrine. The legend of the Bridge of No Return comes from those ancient rites. The river was believed to be a boundary, not just between land, but between life and death. I shivered, pulling my jacket tighter. And the ones who crossed it, who came back. They came back because they weren't supposed to, Lucien finished. The river takes what belongs to it. When it's denied, it demands balance. Ria sighed, pushing a hand through her hair. "So how do we give it what it wants without losing Selene?" Lucien exchanged a glance with me. "That's what we're trying to find out." Hours blurred as we worked. We read by lamplight, our voices low as we pieced together fragments of forgotten history. The story that emerged was older than the city, older than the bridge. A tale of a priestess whose blood sealed the boundary between worlds, whose descendants carried the power to close what had been opened. I stared at the passage Lucien translated aloud, the words sending a chill through me. "From her line shall come the keeper of the seal, and only her blood shall satisfy the river's claim." Ria leaned over, reading it again. "Selene, that's you?" I swallowed hard, my pulse pounding in my ears. "How do you know?" Lucien hesitated, then gently pushed an old family registry toward me. My family's name was there, linked in faded ink to the name of the priestess. "Your mother's line. It goes back to her. The blood of the keeper." I sank into a chair, the weight of it all crashing over me. "So I'm the key?" Lucien nodded. "Your blood can end this, can close the breach that brought him back." "And what does that mean?" Ria asked sharply. "What happens to her?" Lucian's gaze was steady but full of sorrow. It doesn't have to mean harm, a ritual, an offering, not of life, but of will, of choice. Selene's choice. I thought of Eli, his smile, his kiss, the cold that lingered after. I thought of the boy I'd loved, and the shadow that wore his face now. I have to do it, I said quietly. I have to set him free. Ria's eyes widened. Selene, are you sure? There has to be another way. There isn't, I said, more certain than I'd ever been. I can't let him go on like this. It's not fair, to him or to anyone. And if this is the only way to end it, then I will. Lucian rested a hand over mine, solid and warm. You're braver than you know. And in that dim library, surrounded by the ghosts of the past, I felt it. The resolve I needed. The river had taken Eli once. It was time to help him find peace at last. The bridge stretched out before me, bathed in silver moonlight, its stone arch cutting across the river like a scar. The night was still, the only sound the soft lapping of water against the supports below. The moon's reflection shimmered on the dark surface, broken only by the ripples of the current. I stood at the center of the bridge, heart pounding, breath clouding the cold air. The pendant Lucian had given me hung heavy at my neck, warm against my skin, as if it carried the weight of everything I was about to do. My fingers tightened around the small vial in my pocket, a few drops of my blood as the ritual required. It had to be enough. I felt him before I saw him. Selene. His voice drifted through the night like a prayer, like a plea. I turned. Eli stepped out of the shadows, his face pale beneath the moon, his dark eyes shining with desperation and sorrow. The wind tugged at his coat, at his hair, making him look almost like the boy I'd loved. Almost. Please, he said, moving closer, his hands raised as if to show he meant no harm. Don't do this. We can figure out another way. I can control it. I can learn to stop taking from you. Just give me time. Tears pricked at my eyes. God, I wanted to believe him. Wanted to believe that the boy I'd lost could be saved, that love could conquer what death had twisted. But I knew better. The kiss had shown me the truth. Every moment I was near him, I could feel myself slipping away, and I could see the guilt tearing him apart. I can't, I whispered. My voice shook, but my resolve held. Eli, this isn't life. Not really. Not for you. Not for me. He dropped to his knees before me, hands clenched in fists against the stone. His shoulders shook. Whether from the cold or his grief, I couldn't tell. Please, he begged, voice raw. Don't take you away from me. I don't want to be alone again. I knelt too, close enough to see the tears glistening on his lashes, close enough to feel the unnatural chill radiating from him. I cupped his face in my hands, the cold of his skin biting into my palms. You're not alone, I said softly. You never were. But this isn't who you are. Let me help you. Let me set you free. His eyes searched mine, as if trying to find something to anchor him, to save him. And then, slowly, he nodded. The fight went out of him, and his hands dropped to his sides. Okay, he breathed. Okay. I rose, heartbreaking, and stepped back. The vial in my hand felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. I uncorked it, letting the few precious drops fall to the stone beneath my feet. The moonlight caught them, and for a moment, they glowed like silver. I spoke the words Lucian had taught me, words older than the bridge, older than the city, words meant to bind and release. The air grew heavy, thick with something unseen. The wind stilled. Even the river seemed to pause, waiting. Eli stood, watching me, tears streaming down his face. His lips moved, forming silent words I couldn't hear. Maybe he was saying goodbye. Maybe he was thanking me. As the final word left my lips, the pendant at my throat grew warm, then hot, then blindingly bright. A light burst outward, wrapping Eli in its glow. He gasped, but didn't fight. His body shimmered, as if made of mist and moonlight, and I saw the boy I'd loved one last time, whole, unbroken, at peace. Thank you, he whispered, voice soft as the night breeze. Thank you for setting me free. And then, he was gone. The light faded, leaving only silence and the sound of the river resuming its endless song. At my feet, where he'd stood, lay a single black feather, delicate as ash. I sank to my knees, the weight of it all crashing over me. The grief, the relief, the emptiness. The bridge felt different now, no longer haunted, no longer holding its terrible secret. Just a bridge. Just stone and water and sky. I picked up the feather, turning it over in my fingers. It was all I had left of him. And it was enough. I stayed there until the first light of dawn touched the horizon, the world slowly waking around me. And when I finally rose and walked away, I felt lighter. The curse was broken. The debt paid. And Eli was free. The city looked different in the morning light. Cleaner, brighter, as if the night had finally released its hold and let the world breathe again. The sky stretched wide and pale blue, streaked with soft gold from the rising sun. I sat at a small table outside a cafe, a warm cup of tea between my hands, watching the city come alive. It had been months since that night on the bridge, months since I'd said goodbye to Eli. The ache of it hadn't left me, not completely, but it had softened, like a scar that no longer hurt when touched. Lucian sat across from me, his silver hair catching the sunlight, his gray eyes softer than I'd ever seen them. He watched the street, the people hurrying past with their coffee and their newspapers, as if the world had always been this peaceful. "You seem lighter today," he said, glancing at me with a small smile. I returned it, feeling the truth of his words. "I am." I took a sip of my tea, letting its warmth settle inside me. For the first time in a long while, I feel like I can breathe. Lucian nodded, leaning back in his chair, one arm draped casually along the back. There was a quiet between us. But it wasn't uncomfortable. It felt easy, natural, like the space between old friends who didn't need to fill the silence. "I've been thinking," I said, looking down at the small feather I kept on a chain around my neck. The feather Eli had left behind. A reminder. A promise. It's time I stopped looking backward. I want to do something that matters. Help people, maybe volunteer or work with families who've lost someone. Lucian studied me, and for a moment I saw the admiration in his eyes, real and honest. "I think that would suit you," he said quietly. "Turning pain into something that heals. It's what you've done for me." His words caught me by surprise. But I didn't look away. There was something unspoken between us now, something new and fragile. I wasn't ready to name it, not yet. But it was there, and it made me feel less alone. "I'm still figuring it out," I admitted. "But I know one thing. I don't want to be defined by what I lost, or by what happened." Lucian's gaze softened further. "You won't be. You already aren't." The cafe filled with the soft clink of dishes, the low murmur of conversation. The world went on, as it always did, and I was finally ready to be part of it again. I touched the feather, feeling its delicate edges beneath my fingertips. It wasn't just a memory of Eli, it was a symbol of forgiveness, of letting go, of choosing to live. Some stories end in pain. But as I sat there, the sun warm on my skin, the city alive around me, I realized something I'd been too lost to see before. Some stories end in pain so that we can begin writing our own.